Hey guys, let's get more news from Dallas, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Dallas Cowboys criticized for indifferent free agency. Jerry Jones previously promised to be all in on the 2024 season, but so far, the Dallas Cowboys have essentially sat out the start of NFL free agency. Of course, the Cowboys filled a need by hiring veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks as an on-field coach of sorts to help teammates get up to speed on new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer's scheme. But Dallas lost even the most affordable of veteran free agent running backs and lost a key piece along the offensive line in front of quarterback Dak Prescott. Navigating one of the worst salary cap situations in the NFL was an obvious hurdle for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, but it's hard to believe Dallas has improved since the new league year began on March 13. 5 days after the official start of NFL free agency, CBS Sports gives the Cowboys a D for their performance thus far. The Dallas Cowboys were the only team in the entire NFL to not sign anyone on Monday, writes Garrett Podale for CBS. But they finally took action on Tuesday, re-signing long snapper Trent Sieg. This is in direct opposition to owner and general manager Jerry Jones' all-in claims at the end of the 2023 season. In order for the Cowboys to have room to be players in free agency, they needed to make contract extensions with the second-string quarterback. 2023 First-Team All-Pro wide receiver Dak Prescott and 2023 First-Team All-Pro wide receiver CeeDee Lamb in order to spread their cap successes into future seasons. This inactivity indicates that the Cowboys' front office doesn't care about not being able to make many moves at the start of free agency. This lackadaisical attitude only hurts the team and prevents them from re-signing 5-time Pro Bowl cornerback Tyron Smith, 8-time Pro Bowl cornerback Stefon Gilmore, and a running back to replace Pollard, among other critical transactions. Kendricks was a great signing. He fills the Cowboys' ILB question, and the fact he chose Dallas over the 49ers is icing on the cake. Smith ultimately agreed to terms with the New York Jets, creating uncertainty for the Cowboys at one of the roster's most vital positions. There is no team in the NFL with less spending flexibility than Jones and the Cowboys. After the first week of free agency, the Cowboys have a minimum of $4.06 million in cap space. These concerns are compounded by the fact that Dallas only has the 13th largest cap space in 2025, currently projected at approximately $87.1 million. Prescott's contract restructuring could free up cap space for the remainder of this offseason, but the Cowboys' lack of urgency in reaching some sort of resolution with their franchise quarterback to free up the ability to compete with some of the top free agents available to date has been remarkable. Following Tyron Smith's departure, the Cowboys' left tackle job appears reserved for Tyler Smith. After moving to the swamps of Jersey, and the offensive line tasked with keeping Aaron Rodgers upright, Smith couldn't hide his excitement. "I feel like it's going to be amazing," Smith told Josina Anderson of CBS Sports. "Of course, being at Dallas, he kicked us twice in the playoffs, so I know what he's capable of. Honestly, I'm really excited about the opportunity." Now, the task of keeping Prescott upright falls to Tyler Smith, who, according to Pro Football Focus, allowed just 1 sack in 942 snaps last season. Are the Cowboys setting Mike Zimmer up for failure in 2024? It has been an offseason of departures for the Dallas Cowboys, and it might put incoming defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer in an impossible situation in his first season. It is never easy for first-year coaches or coordinators to see immediate success. This becomes a whole lot harder when you lose as much as the Cowboys have lost in free agency. At a minimum, the Dallas defense will lose Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Neville Gallimore, and the recently medically released Leighton Vander Esch. This does not include the long list of Cowboys defensive starters who are still on the free agency market. Guys like Stefon Gilmore, Jonathan Hankins, and Jaron Kearse could also leave. This is not the only challenge facing Zimmer in his first year back in Dallas. He must also take on the task of adjusting his new players to his scheme. Considering the entire Dallas defense has been developing in the Dan Quinn system for the past 3 years, it makes Zimmer's task of transitioning the defense to his scheme that much harder. The question here is clear: has the Cowboys' quiet offseason strategy set Zimmer up for failure? It is hard to argue that the Cowboys' defense, right now, is better than it was in 2023. This downgrade in both defensive talent and depth has left Dallas with a major player personnel problem. They do not have the guys necessary to run Zimmer's defense at a high level, and with limited draft capital and cap space, it is hard to see them getting there at any point before the 2024 season kicks off. Considering veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks is still the only external signing from Dallas, it seems like we can expect that to be the only one on defense this offseason. The addition of Kendricks, the guy who ran Zimmer's defense for years, is helpful. It does not fully fix the linebacker problem, however, and new holes on the defensive line and in the secondary means Dallas has more weaknesses than they can strengthen. In short, Zimmer is going to have to get everything he can out of his limited player personnel options if the Cowboys are going to be successful, which is the front office's fault, not his. Zimmer might not have the defense he needs on the roster, but he does have a lot of weight behind his voice in the draft room, considering his immense experience and defensive knowledge. He has to use this to his advantage once April comes around. The Cowboys, for all their weaknesses on offense, have to consider going with a defensive-heavy draft plan. Dallas needs to draft the best player available at a position of need at each selection. If that means drafting a defensive end, linebacker, and defensive tackle in the first, second, and third rounds, so be it. Cowboys' position on long-rumored trade for $96 million star, still firm, report. As long as Trevon Diggs plays for the Cowboys, he is just starting a 5-year, $97 million contract extension, and as long as Stefon Diggs continues to be a brooder in Buffalo, there will continue be a link between the elder Diggs joining his little brother in Dallas. Even if no one is specifically expressing it, it's there. And it's not happening. Any possibility of the Cowboys swooping in for a trade of Stefon Diggs to unite him with his brother in Dallas is just not happening. That's the word from SI.com's Cowboys insider Mike Fisher, who quoted a source with rather strong language to illustrate just how far removed the possibility of a Diggs and Diggs really is. There's nothing new on the possibility of Stefon Diggs being traded to the Cowboys, but SI asked the question anyway, if only to swat it down. Again, not that anyone was even proposing a major Cowboys trade at this point. In fact, it has been a decidedly quiet opening week of free agency for the Cowboys, who appear intent on bringing back much the same team as last year, only minus some key pieces, like left tackle Tyron Smith and starting running back Tony Pollard. The Cowboys have not made moves to replace either, apparently turning to the bargain bin and/or the draft to cover up those holes. The plan seems to be to stick with what the Cowboys have for this year and, essentially, be ready to explode the whole thing if the Cowboys flop in the playoffs again. The only addition to the Cowboys roster has been linebacker Eric Kendricks, a very good signing. But there has been frustration that the Cowboys have not attempted to do more. Team VP Stephen Jones preached patience, essentially telling fans the team plans to do some dumpster diving in the coming weeks. That first negotiating day, it's wild and it's big, big, big dollars. But as you see now, things are calming down, Jones said, via The Athletic. That's where we think you can be efficient and do good things. I think we have in the past, whether it's via trade or whether it's via just a deal, like we did yesterday with Kendricks. I'm sure there will be more players released around the league as people move forward and work within their cap. You never know what you might see that you don't see today. Those are all things that we feel very prepared to make quick decisions on. And I look forward to it. As for Diggs, he is just starting a 4-year, $96 million contract extension, with $48 million guaranteed. For a Cowboys team that is looking more and more like it will absorb the massive $59.4 million contract hit for Dak Prescott this year rather than renegotiate his deal, the renegotiation may yet come, of course, and is looking at massive extensions for Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. Taking on Stefon Diggs' deal is a non-starter. Maybe a Diggs deal now is more BS than ever, but it was always BS, so it's a bit of a moot point. Still, Stefon Diggs continued to brood in Buffalo, despite his generous contract. The cap-trapped Bills had to make 6 difficult cuts last week to make sure they were cap-compliant, but Diggs was not among them. Nor was he traded. Nor has there been talk that he will be traded. He did, however, post a cryptic message to Twitter/X, ready for whatever. Maybe that means a trade is coming, though at his salary, not likely. And certainly not to Dallas. And you fan, what do you think of the Stefon Diggs situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.